Building a good early game team in DragonSword Awakening doesn't just mean recreating or copying a complete late game lineup that you've seen online. This is mostly because a lot of the recommended lineups will include characters obtained later through the story, so as a result in today's video I'm going to be showing you several strong teams that you can start building early, explain why their characters work well together, and mention which characters you can add later to actually complete said lineups. To start though, let's begin with one of the easiest and most comfortable teams to build. Roxy, Theresia, and Lute is a great early game team, mostly because Lute is already available, while Roxy and Theresia are selectable through your early invitations. Roxy provides bleed, creating opportunities for Theresia to enter and continue the fight, and Theresia can then apply stun, giving Lute the condition that he needs to then rejoin the fight. Lute adds knockdown and healing, making the team much more forgiving while you're still learning enemy attacks, but this is honestly why the three work so naturally and so well together. Later, however, of course, you could replace someone like Lute with Kalien for a more aggressive version, and Kalien here will reinforce the stun side of the team while also adding fire damage. However, of course, you do lose the safety provided by Lute's healing. For another early team that combines two different conditions though, you can actually build around poison and airborne too. This lineup is Charlotte, Johnny, and Reina, and with this, the characters are fairly accessible. Johnny joins through early story progression, so selecting Charlotte therefore will give you access to the team's main poison pairing quite early on. Reina will then add airborne, and this gives the team another way to control enemies, trigger signal skills, and extend its combos. This means the combo is not necessarily dependent on poison, but instead can also deal damage and crowd control the enemy without much effort. That said, since Reina also requires an invitation, you may not actually own the entire trio completely, and until then you can use one of your starting characters as a third member and prioritize Charlotte and Johnny until then. Cerise becomes another option later through the story though, and her tornado provides area-based airborne buildup, making her a decent alternative when fighting groups of enemies together that remain inside of it. Moving away from poison though, the next team is actually built around stun and creating safe openings for a ranged DPS. As a result, meet the lineup of Kalien, Castella, and Astria. Now, Castella is available from the beginning of the game, while Kalien and Astria, of course, are selectable through Fate's invitations. This means you may not have the entire team fully, just like some of the other lineups that I mentioned earlier, but Castella and Kalien are already a pretty strong foundation. Once the enemy's super armor reaches 0, Castella can react and convert this damage into a stun, and Kalien will then reinforce again the stun side of the team while adding fire damage. Astria then takes advantage of those control windows to safely charge and use her powerful ranged attacks, and these three once again work together quite well because each handles a pretty different part of the fight. More important than anything else though, I'd also like to mention that Astria otherwise has a tough time hitting enemies at times, but since her fellow teammates do allow her to basically attack a stunned or immobile enemy, this actually works quite well. That said, until you obtain Astria, you could also use another DPS focused character in the final slot while you work on developing Castella and Kalien. That said, Kalien can also be paired with Aria for the team that I'm about to introduce of Kalien, Aria, and the fire team. Now the full lineup is Kalien, Aria, and Sion, and as Aria is available near the start of the game, she's definitely one of the easier characters to build around. To add to this, pairing her with Kalien again gives you an accessible fire-focused core, where Kalien contributes fire and stun, while Aria provides wide attacks that help deal with groups of enemies. For the starting version of this team though, you can use whichever starting character currently gives you the most damage, control, or healing in the final slot. Sion also becomes the character you can add later to complete the dedicated fire team though. Kalien and Sion again will reinforce the fire side of the team, while Aria provides AoE and another way to continue the signal skill rotation. Once Sion is available though, you can actually just pair him with characters like Aria alongside Reina or Eileen if you want to place a higher emphasis on airborne instead of completely focusing on fire, but the next team follows a similar idea though it uses electric as its main element. Once you gain access to Ornette after main quest 20, you can actually pair her with Sion to give you the foundation of an electric team. Both characters contribute to the same elemental game plan by applying shock, and this gives them additional opportunities to actually activate their signal skills. That said, as usual, the third member here will determine which direction that the team takes. Using someone like Alex adds knockdown, giving the team another crowd control option and another way to interrupt enemies when the electric rotation slows down or is done, but you could also add someone like Tart, who keeps all three characters focused on electric instead. That said, this team definitely is slightly less accessible as you won't own someone like Ornette, Sion, and one of these two characters immediately, so start with the core and use an accessible temporary third member until the team is complete. Finally though, there is actually a very strong ice team worth planning for, although the full version of it takes much longer to unlock as it's also one of the best late game teams once complete. So to introduce you to the lineup, what we're referring to actually is Othello, Cerise, and Dana. Now for context, Dana can be selected early, but the other members of her recommended ice team arrive later throughout the story, and all three contribute to ice while also fighting from range, allowing you to control enemies and deal damage without endangering yourself from melee enemies. Early on though, you should definitely focus on Dana alongside two accessible characters who will inevitably provide damage, control, control or healing, but once you have access to Cerise, this is the character that you'll first be adding, providing more range control and area coverage. Othello will then eventually complete this ice team, but though this team is definitely one that takes a little bit longer to get online, it does give players who choose Dana a clear team to work toward as they progress through the story, and it'll eventually pay off, of course. So with this, yes, there are several strong early game teams in DragonSword Awakening, along with the characters that you can add to them later. You should definitely be starting, however, with characters that you can access, focus on status ailments and signal skills that connect them so you can actually deal additional damage or have a more seamless gameplay experience. And of course, you shouldn't worry if you can't immediately build the final or best team that you've seen online. If this guide helped you plan your early game team, or if you learned anything from said video, leave a like and subscribe for more DragonSword Awakening guides though. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.